Throughout this TI, we've seen a ton of interesting picks. IO carry, Slark mid, Ricky mid, basically anything that OG Secret or like Infamous do. It's just weird. And in this game in particular, we're going to be breaking down how to play Support Invoker. Yes, Support Invoker. If you've been following TI at all, you know that there's a few teams that are doing this. Newbie did it, Secret did it, and in this game, we're going to be breaking down Yapzor's take on Support Invoker. In fact, I don't think it's maybe as complicated as you think. If you're like, oh, it's Invoker and I'm a support player, there's no way I can learn this. There's no way. Trust me, watch this video and you'll be like, okay, it's possible.
Do you want to carry your games but always find yourself stuck in the support role? On gameleap.com, we have the tools you need to take control of your games as a pause 4 and pause 5. With hundreds of guides covering hero specifics and key concepts like ganking and lane control, GameLeap is the place to unlock your potential as a support player. Hit the discount link in the description below to start today.
So the first thing to look at is his starting item build. Just make this your starting item build. It is by far the best one. You start with a Sage's Mask, 6 Tangos, and a Fairy Fire. What this gives you is a nice bit of sustain, right? You have the 6 Tangos, but then most importantly, it allows you to build into Bassi. And Bassi is currently one of the best landing stage items in Dota. It gives you 8 damage and the ability to give 2 armor to all the creeps and heroes around you. It is giga impactful for a hero like Invoker who has low base damage and, you know, not the best landing stage. Now in this game, he's laning with an Axe. Now when laning with Axe, you have a couple options, right? You could go for the Battle Hunger Cold Snap combo, which is pretty strong, and it's something I recommend you try out if you're going to play this hero. But also, he does have the option to simply tri-lane here, right? You notice the enemy team is tri-laning bottom, and as a result, once he picks up his Bassi, you know, I think he's beginning to consider it, right? He saps a little bit of XP from this Axe, pressures the Tiny under tower, but you're like, what is he actually doing in this lane? Nothing crazy. He hit the Tiny, but he's like, you know, okay, I could do that too. It's really not that complicated at this point. And now at this point, he's going to TP bottom. And the most important thing that Yapzor is brutally good at is identifying kill opportunities in the smallest of gaps. And Invoker with Cold Snap is very good at that. He punishes small gaps and makes some very large ones. Similar to this troll go right here. So if we notice, the lane is simply pushing in. Right? They have a creep advantage, which is very, very important. And what a creep advantage this large means is that the enemy team most likely cannot trade. And as a result, this slight maneuver up from the troll to get one of the last hits is a Cold Snap punish opportunity. One of the main benefits of Cold Snap in the laning stage is its very large cast range. And as a result, pairing it with any sort of gap close is very strong because it's very easy to get the first instance of the Cold Snap off. The second benefit to this Bassi that I really want to mention is if you do end up tri-laning like this, it is the best item to have, right? It is such a good tri-lane item due to the fact that it gives the mana regen and the armor to everyone around you. The next thing that's very important is abusing Invoker's relatively high attack range, right? He also has a fairly good animation, and as a result, the main thing that Yapzor does in this lane is simply hit Taiga. Right? So Taiga makes this quick misstep where he actually approaches around this tree into a position where he can't trade with Yapzor, and Yapzor does a very good job of identifying that and getting 2 autos in, right? And these 2 autos are a huge difference in these tri-lanes. In fact, playing around the tree line is something that you must do as Invoker. You do not trade well 1v1 against the majority of heroes, period. So do not try to do that. What you need to do is bounce in the tree line, use your high regen from Quas to make trades favorable by sneaking 1 or 2 auto attacks in, because you get a vision advantage due to the fact that you're A, playing around a ward that you have down, or B, playing around the vision that your creeps give. The next thing I want to talk about quickly is what heroes is Yapzor paired with. If we break down each one, first off, he's with the CM, and Invoker actually does have fairly large mana issues in the early game. EMP certainly does not restore the majority of your mana, or as much as you would like. Bassi is good, but certainly not enough if you're constantly casting Cold Snap, so the CM aura helps out a lot. Just good, and in a tri-lane setting, it's very strong. You have the Cold Snap and Crystal Nova from long range, making it very hard for any hero to actually lane. Next up is Gyro. Why is Gyro so good with Invoker? Well, for a couple of reasons. If you're a support Invoker and you gank mid, Gyro is one of the best heroes strictly because he can easily set up your EMP and then follow up with a Rocket Barrage to put on top of your Cold Snap. It makes a lot of sense there. And one thing I want to mention about support Invoker is that because you're going Quas Wex, you don't do a lot of damage, and as a result, you need cores that do damage. Gyrocopter does a lot of damage. Same thing with Axe. Axe is a high damage core if he gets a proper call, and EMP pairs very well with call. And finally, Kunkka is a hero that easily provides setup for EMP, right? X into EMP is a super reliable combo. Sometimes it can be actually hard to get EMP off. Also, you even have the late game combos of X into Sunstrike, X into Meteor, and Kunkka is just once again a high damage hero, allowing Invoker to kind of get away with this EMP tornado build. Now let's break down how I think Yapzor actually makes this work and what are the key concepts. Now, besides the laning things that I've already talked about, I really think it's crazy important that you don't die. And you're like, well, obviously Speed, like why would I ever want to die on any hero? That's the most basic thing I've ever heard. But if you really pay attention to your games compared to Yapzor's, is that he has close to no deaths in the majority of games, right? I mean, there are obvious cases where he's going to die a lot. No one has perfect games all the time. But he very rarely dies on heroes like Shaker. The support invoker that he played doesn't die, and as a result, simply based on a kill that he gets, 1 assist, and passive gold, he's able to get seemingly amazing timings, right? He has a Bassi and boots, and now due to the fact that he's gets a couple last hits in lane, he's able to pick up an 8-minute urn. Yes, he got boots, Bassi, and urn at 8 minutes. That's extremely good. Now let's briefly talk about how to actually cast your spells in the early game as Invoker. Once you become a hero or once you get enough levels to actually effectively use EMP and Tornado. So you notice in this gank here, the gyro is wrapping on the Troll Warlord. And because he got the cold snap off and because the Troll is disengaging, he reliably uses the EMP first, right? You might need to use the EMP first and then Tornado right after if they are a quick disengage hero, right? But in this case, he's able to just use it to actually completely grief this gyro rocket, but more so as a preventing of disengage from the enemy team. So that's kind of optimal for maximizing, where you use the cold snap into EMP. So basically the cold snap with the idea of securing the EMP, right, making sure it hits, and then the tornado to make sure that they don't disengage after the cold snap ends. Now, it's very important that you don't strive off this build, in my opinion. It's okay to buy something like a magic stick if you think it's worth it for your lane, but really the boots, Bassi, and urn are key on this hero. If you don't have an urn, your impact is very limited, right? Urn plus cold snap is just one of the best combos in the game between items and a spell. It makes so much sense and allows you to actually have extreme amounts of impact. He can control one hero for the complete duration of a fight, right? Cold snap lasts for 4 seconds. And for these early game fights, that's very long. A quick little cheeky play that Yapzor goes for here is actually very important and something you should reciprocate in your games, and that is simply trying to burn Core's mana, right? If you see a jug, you might be like, okay, maybe I won't do it, or a life stealer. However, a hero like Troll or PA that actually heavily rely on their abilities to farm need the mana and don't have good mana pools, right? In fact, he has a clarity up to try to deal with that problem. And as a result, Yapzor goes for a Tornado EMP, he misses, but the idea there was to really limit the Troll's ability to farm. It makes a lot of sense and is super high value. In terms of skill build, let's briefly go back and talk about the beginning. So he starts with Quas, then goes Wex, back to Quas at level 3, but after he gets the level 3 Quas, he starts maxing out the Wex whenever he can. So the idea is more points in Quas in the early game because Cold Snap is your main ability, but as you develop and get more levels from either the Tome of Knowledge or just the sapping some lane, or I guess even jungling as he's doing here, you're going to start putting more points into your Wex. So for the most part on Support Invoker, you do want to sit behind your cores, right? That is typically the general idea, as you're super good at counter initiating, right? If they commit on your core, you have the option to defensively EMP, the ability to counter initiate with your Tornado, prevent someone from coming in with a Cold Snap, right? You have a ton of options, but at the same time, if you're playing a pub and you recognize that, your team's making a bad push or that a lot of farm is being missed, feel free to try to scale into the late game. Once again, guys, you have to understand that in pubs, there's a complete lacking of farm. Everyone is generally bad at farming, and that's just the reality. So, taking a little bit of farming the open lane and scaling into the late game as a support invoker is, I think, one of the main benefits of actually picking this hero, right? You obviously scale super well, and not only that, because of the fact that he has 0 deaths, and is actually, 0 deaths and 7 assists, as well as 24 last hits, he's getting decently big in levels, right? He's at least not falling very far behind if we look at the general levels. He's 10, and the other supports on the enemy team are 9 and 8, and his Crystal Maiden is 8. So the general idea here is stay high in levels. Don't be afraid to farm if you feel like your team can't make plays. Do not try to force things alone, as your hero does not solo kill people. As we talked about, you can burn Core's mana, but really, don't be afraid to farm if you think the game requires it. And then one of the final main benefits I'm going to talk about before wrapping up this video is using Ghost Walk very reliably. Once you get the level 10 talent, minus 30-second Ghost Walk cooldown, you can just go everywhere very quickly. Currently, he is Ghost Walked. Fortunately, it's a replay bug, but he's just hunting this lone druid. And due to the fact that you get bonus movement speed from your Ghost Walk, right? Currently, he's getting an extra 10%. He's able to catch up, find this pick off, and now he instantly uses it again. Right after the gank ends, he casts the Ghost Walk once again to get across the map and start scouting again, right? Finds a DD, moves across to the mid lane, could sap some XP if he really wanted, but at first he's going to secure the rune. You have a lot of options, and basically, once you're in this Ghost Walk constantly, you become a Ricky or a Bounty Hunter, right? You're just as much of a threat, and as a result, you're going to burn support gold supply because I have to focus so much on countering out your Ghost Walk. As you see, he's just spamming it at this point because it is such a low cooldown, being that it is 15 seconds. And you notice here, his team is taking Roche, and look at the benefit of this hero. High movement speed, 464, catches the Tiny, burns all of his mana with the Cold Snap and EMP combo, and now Tiny is completely useless. Literally can do nothing. Quick little side tip about Earn. I just want to point this out because he actually abuses this a lot. But if you have one Earn charge and you get a kill, you only get one more. But if you have 0, you get 2. So you notice here, even though this Tiny is obviously dead, right? He's very clearly going to die. He casts a second Earn charge anyway because he knows he's going to get the kill, right? And as a result, he gets 2 back. So it doesn't matter too much. But basically, if you're unsure of if you're going to get a kill, feel free to use the second Earn charge if it will bring you down to 0. And now when it comes to team fighting, really, because you don't have Exhort, there's not much you can do besides cast your Cold Snap, EMP, and Tornado, but it's very important to cast your EMP primarily on targets that have low mana pools, and this is something that I think might not make a lot of sense to the majority of players, but the idea here is because this troll gets hit by this EMP, as we will now follow the troll, he has no ulti. Troll Warlord effectively is a useless hero, and as a result, it is the easiest fight in the world for Secret, right? So this is the main benefit of Support Invoker. I genuinely believe that it is more important to cast EMP on agi heroes than int heroes, and even strength heroes more than int heroes, right? Int heroes can kind of survive your EMP. They'll still be able to do enough. Not saying it's not useful. Feel free to cast it on them if they're a clear target and you're going on them. But really, these are the priorities. The Troll Warlords, the Tinies, anyone of that ballpark. And finally, the last thing I'm going to talk about in this video is item builds. Now, you can go a plethora of different items on Invoker. He goes Spirit Vessel in this game. After the Spirit Vessel, and honestly, even if you don't want to complete Spirit Vessel, you don't have to, but Spirit Vessel's the main core item you're going to buy is Spirit Vessel. After that, you can go a Force Staff, you can go an Ags, you can go a Glimmer Cape. It really doesn't matter. You're going to have utility regardless. You just kind of have to determine what is good for the game. Do they have a Ricky who's going to Smoke Cloud me? Okay, I'll buy Force Staff. Do they have a lot of magical damage? Okay, I'll buy a Glimmer. Do they have things I want to purge? Right? Maybe like a Cursed Crown from the Willow, or a Mischance from the Troll, or Fire Spirits from the Phoenix. All right, I'll buy a Lotus Orb. Right? You kind of want to adjust to the enemy team. You buy your items very much predicated on what the enemy team can do, less so about your own team for the most part. And hopefully you guys learned a lot about Support Invoker. I just want to make a video on it and talk about this hero because I think it's a fascinating way of playing Dota. In fact, this whole TI has been fascinating. Probably the best TI so far. I mean, the meta has developed so much. There's so many great teams, and hopefully you've been enjoying it just as much as I have. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, please do like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.
Your team does not deserve your support, but holy crap, do they need it? At gameleap.com, we have hundreds of guides teaching you how the best support players in Dota secretly carry their games with awful teammates without them even knowing it. Click on this link right now to take advantage of our special offer for a 25% discount and start your journey today.